You saying the 841 statute in the feds is unconstitutional because it don't have a penalty by it?
Yeah, it don't have a penalty. And I'll show you where they ever said an unlawful act without a punishment is no law at all. It ain't a complete crime. A crime constitutes two things, an unlawful act and a punishment for that unlawful act. You got an unlawful act with no punishment. See, it ain't necessarily got to carry time. It just need to have a punishment for violating the law. And they don't have a punishment for violating the law in 841A. The judge told me, he said, man, I can read you this whole statute. You can't have tell me what the penalties is.
Yeah.
So how do they make the determination of sentencing you or giving you a penalty if it ain't there listed? They go up on the beat.
They just had been doing that shit. When that shit went in effect from 86, when they changed over from the guidelines, when they wrote that bitch, they just wasn't applying it like that. And nobody was never challenging it. Matter of fact, the judge went so far in the show, he said, man, this shit has never even been officially adopted in the law signed by the president. Because when they passed the law, he said, for real, it was never set up like that. He's like, the codification committee is the one who did all that shit, separated, but they don't have legislation powers. He said, man, he said officially, Title 21, with the drug statute come up on it, he said, man, that shit never been adopted by law. He went as the father saying that. This shit in black and white.
And what case you said that is?
It's a case called Vasquez out of New Jersey.
And he laid it on them on sentence, or he went all the way to the Supreme Court?
No, he didn't go to the Supreme Court. But I got it. I got the whole thing what the judge was arguing about. He wasn't even arguing about that. The judge just went into it. But it was a nigga in prison who was showing me about it years and years ago. He showed me about that shit. He the one showed me about the one for the Supreme Court. So I see it. I got part of the oral arguments from the Supreme Court where they was saying that stuff in 98. Cause you know what, matter of fact, it's a way a nigga could order the oral arguments and hear it for yourself.
Right.
See, what we could do, we could make some content on that shit and show and get that oral argument and let a nigga hear that bitch right on the podcast. This ain't what I'm saying. This what the crackers saying right here.
Right.
This what they saying.
This their language.
Yeah, this what they saying. This what they admitting. And this what the prosecutor admitting, that bitch don't have no penalty. He admit, and that, not only the prosecutor, that's the Solicitor General. That's the top prosecutor, the second top prosecutor in the United States. That was an assistant Solicitor General. He over any line prosecutor. He the second highest in command. He only person higher is him. Is the goddamn the Attorney General.
That's a lot of dudes need to know that, man. Cause look, I ain't know that you know.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't know it. I studied it for years.
You know, I ain't know that. I
had to give it to a lawyer. A nigga out of Fort Myers. I gave that shit to his lawyer. That cracker say, man, you know what, man? He absolutely right, man. He said all these years it took a man in prison to come up with this. He argued that shit for the dude black and white, but they didn't want to hear it. They take his shit and was spinning like, what are you trying to say? Cause he don't never get there because he don't catch it when you first come in. Cause when you first catch it in, everything challengeable. Now that bitch could be clear what you trying to say. Hey man, I'm telling this fucking statute don't have a penalty, man. And if you give me a motherfucking day, judge, you exceeding your motherfucking authority. You creating a separation of powers. That's why we got three different branches of government. We got the legislative branch, we got the executive branch, and we got the judicial branch. The legislative branch never put no penalty to this bitch. So you exceeding your authority when you trying to sentence me because you work for the judicial branch. And I got 11 certain case law when they be talking about that separation of powers. When one section of the government overstep their boundary.
Right.
It's the all lay law.
Right. And like you said, a lawyer ain't gonna fight that hard for that because now you messing up his money.
No, you messing up the whole system.
Yeah, the whole system.
Yeah, you fucking with something that unravel the system. That's like being rebellious.
Yeah, it is. You ain't following by the rules.
Yeah.
This shit been going smooth for too long.
That's what that mean. That officer of the court shit mean. He's supposed to be, his loyalty is to the court first. So that's like, you know, right there, you ain't got no fair shake anyway. When they tell you off the real, A lawyer is the officer of the court. Fuck you mean he an officer of the court? He's supposed to be a representative of me. Fuck the court.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a good movie that show you about that shit. It's a movie called The Judge. I had watched that bitch in prison. And the judge, he had hit a motherfucker like a hit and run. Like he had been drinking a little bit, he did a hit and run and shit. And his son was his big time lawyer, but his son you know, he was like off the grid. He ain't play by the rules.
Right.
He played games and shit. He did whatever he did to win cases and shit. And his dad, they were asking his dad one day. His dad didn't want him representing him, cause he ain't like that. His dad, he like, because they asked his dad like, who was the best attorney you ever seen? And his dad always was saying it was another dude. He like, man, he came in, he played no games, he won his cases fair and square. So he always like that was a knock on his son, cause how his son did. He don't go by that rule. He ain't go by them ethics and shit like that right there.
Right.
And then in the end, the dad had to break it down and told him, man, you the best lawyer I seen. But it was just showing you what them crackers' mindset is. Playing by the rules. Playing by the rules will get you fucked up. And they know that, because that's in their favor.
Right.
Because they could manipulate the rules. But now when you go to manipulating that shit back, now it's got a problem, because now you got them bitches off balance. They don't know how to, now you got to, now they creativity got to come back in effect. And
right.
9 out of 10 of them prosecutors, the motherfuckers ain't got no creativity. Because it's a system what they working with.
Yeah, they used to pushing all the pieces on the chessboard. They ain't using nobody pushing nothing back.
Yeah. So that's why they know when I was coming at them with them arguments. Matter of fact, and I can show you where another motherfucking judge told me that I was right too. When I put that argument for a dude, because I was saying, you can't career, motherfucker. I was arguing for a dude. I said, man, you can't career. You can't give me a career with an 841 charge. I said, because for the first one of the criteria for the career offender, your instant offense got to be a felony. I said, because this thing don't have a penalty, and the Supreme Court done already defined you what a felony was, an offense punishable by a year or more. This don't have no punishment. And because 841 likes a punishment, you can't give me you can't career me. Because that's one of the first criteria, that my instant offense got to be a felony. So since you can't categorize this as a felony, you can't career me.
So ain't no drug case, a possession, a trafficking, none of that
None of it. Feds don't got trafficking. They only got possession with intent to distribute. All that come under 841A. See, the only how they could tell how much time you carry, they need to know the substance. Because the substance is going to tell you how much time. They need to know the weight. Because the weight will tell you how much time you carry. They need to know the weight, and they need to know the substance. The problem what they got, 841A don't have a particular substance. It's just possession with intent to distribute a controlled substance. It ain't no particular type, and it ain't no particular amount. All amount and stuff is in 841B1A, B1 and B. But B is not attached to A.
It's two separate things.
It's two separate things.
So how do they hit you with 841B? What charge you have to do for 841B? Conspiracy?
That's when they go to talking about the substance. When they put the indictment, they're going to say possession with intent to distribute cocaine, or possession with intent to distribute heroin, or possession with intent to distribute crack. But that's not in 841A. It don't have no substance in it. They add that in it. And so that's why a nigga get hoodwinked, because you'll look at the indictment and then you'll say, oh, no, they charged me with cocaine. No, fuck the indictment. Let's go look at the statute. Because the indictment can't trump the statute. The statute was control everything. Indictment ain't nothing but some goddamn paper. That's something they written up there.
I'm kind of confused. So the 841 is different than the 841D, right?
Okay, basically like
Right.
this.
It's two different parts.
It's two different parts. So say when you caught your dope case.
Do she got a computer?
Yeah, I can look it up on. So when you
You
catch
can
your dope,
look it up.
whenever you catch a dope charge in the feds, they gonna say you violated 841A, right?
Right.
That's what they gonna say you violated.
Title 21 USC 841A.
Then they gonna add they're going to add something else to it and say you also violated the 841B.
B1A, B1B,
Yeah,
or
B1,
B1,
yeah.
whatever it's going to be, B1A, B1B, or B1C. But them not a part of 841A. 841A is really the offense. But the problem with it is it don't have a punishment to it. It's separate. When you look on the statute, it's going to say unlawful acts, then it's going to say penalties. It's separated.
Yeah, this how they play with them words and them numbers and shit.
Yeah.
They word wizards now. USC 841A. USC 841A.
21 USC.
Yeah, 21, yeah, it came up.
Now click on
USC
it.
code 841 prohibited act.
Prohibited
8.
acts.
Okay. Unlawful act except authorized by the subchapter. Okay. Manufacture, distribute, dispense, manufacture, distribute, dispense, controlled substance.
See? It ain't no type.
Mm-mm.
That's the statute. The statute don't have a type in there.
Okay.
It don't have an amount in there. Now look at B.
Now they
B
got,
gonna show you that's the penalties.
yeah, B is the penalties. As per otherwise provided, position 849, 850.
See, that's why they say after you violate 841, these the penalties for it. So it's showing you we got to convict you of something first, and then we go come attach the penalties later.
But
That's
that ain't
showing
how
you right there.
that's backwards.
That's backwards. You can't do that because now you add something. You become a legislating because you add something that's not in the statute. It's not in the plain text of the statute.
So like if I 841 should have all the penalties right here.
Be in it. Right in it.
When I violate 841, when I violate 841A, I should already know the penalties, just like you say robbery.
Exactly. Because it's going to say you, whosoever violate this shall be punished by, and it's going to add a penalty right in there.
So when did they come up with these extra? When did they advise this right here? When they came up with this shit right here?
Like in 87?
Yeah.
That's when they came, because it was in the height of the crack.
Yeah, I had to think of. That's why I wanted. When they came up with this shit,
Yeah.
1987.
Yeah, 87. That's when it went in effect.
They threw that shit in real quick. Slapped that shit in there.
Together. Because what was happening, they was in there complaining about crack. They was about to live by his shit. So they was in there, they was arguing about the crack. So what happened, it was another case where it showed where they brought chemists in.
Mm-hmm.
So they was like, hey, but I had a dude who beat it. Because he this is what he did to him. Because they were saying that now, after the printing came out, they were saying they had to prove crack beyond a reasonable doubt and shit. Prove that it was crack to give you that time and shit. So the lawyer, he went there, so they brought the chemist in. So he say, hey, the chemist put on this analysis, hey, what's the difference between cocaine and crack? He like, man, one can be inhaled and one can't be inhaled when it get to the temperature, when you put the fire to it and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like cocaine can't be inhaled and all this old stuff. He broke all his analogies down. And so the lawyer came back. So the lawyer went to cross-examine the chemist. So he said, let me get this straight, what you're saying. He's saying that the only way, the difference between these two substances is that one can be inhaled and one can't. He goes all the like his motherfucking, that's what he testified to. So he said, yeah. So he came back, he said, are you sure about that? He said, yeah. So he walked away like he was through. He came back and said, hold up, I got one more question for you. He said, did you inhale any of it? He was like, was looking right. No. He said, well, therefore, you don't know which one it is, do you? Stuck. They had to send the nigga to cocaine. He had to send the nigga to cocaine. He fought them up. And it's a case out of D.C. A nigga did it in D.C. It's a case called Brisbane out of D.C. He won like that, too. Because when you go to look in crack, you ain't got to do it. When you go in the 841, crack don't got a definition. So I done read too much law. They showed, man, it ain't no definition. It was a lab-made term. They came up with that shit talking about crack.
Right.
There's no such thing as crack. That's why when you go in the state, it ain't no different for the penalties. If it's such thing as crack, why the state don't punish it differently?
Yeah.
It's all cocaine.
Yeah, it's all cocaine. Crack
You
is
go to
a
any state, it's
crack
all
is a commercialized word that they put on it so you know how to identify the drug when you go purchase it. That's all crack was.
Right.
The government came up with a name, stamped a name on it.
Cause that's the way they could punish you.
Right.
When they came up with that shit in '87, so that's why they could get a crack dudes more time.
Mm-hmm.
See, all kind of shit where they would say, "Oh, well, crack dealers are known to have firearms and do this right here, and they tend to be more dangerous." So who you was talking about? Because you know, crack dealers was niggas dealing with crack.
Yeah.
And they were saying it was more dangerous and everything. So when I go back, I'm reading this shit. I'm like, they doing all this and that. They talking about crack. But you know the problem what they had when they were making that bitch 100 to 1 and all that right there? It wasn't damn goddamn chemists in there. It was all lawmakers.
Mm-hmm.
Old ass white people in there with not one goddamn chemist in there. And they coming up with a term about crack and about the penalties about crack. Not one goddamn chemist was in there. Not one chemist.
Man, these people play hard, man.
Yeah. But when you seen this motherfucking methamphetamine epidemic, it's more motherfuckers died off meth than ever even thought about with crack and fentanyl. But you ain't doing nothing about that because the crackers the one came up with that.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all just settled a whole lot of shit. Found them people was responsible for getting people hooked on that goddamn fentanyl with that big company. You sued them for a fine. Why ain't nobody went to jail?
Yeah, when they were putting all them opioids out here, when they were flooding the street with opioids.
Yeah. Why nobody ain't went to jail?
That wasn't no accident. That was by design.
Yeah.
Cause during that same time, they were beefing with the Taliban over there in Afghanistan, and they were letting all the heroin and stuff come through.
Right. Cause now, when the Taliban, it was the Northern Alliance.
Yeah.
See the Taliban was the number ones with the poppy seed in the United States. So when they came up there with that war, with talking about looking for Bin Laden, that's why the Northern Alliance, because they was number 2. They was like, okay, we gonna help you find Bin Laden, because they was trying to put the stranglehold on the Taliban so they could get their stuff through. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. They took over.
Yeah, that should all be political.
Yeah.
Hey, people don't understand, man. It's a plan without the black man, and they goddamn should be pushing that bitch. They be pushing that agenda. So that's an agenda that's not on the bill. It's a plan without the black man. Any way they can keep him divided, any way they can keep him lost, any way they can keep him uneducated, they'll win on the monopoly board because they gonna run them. They gonna own all the land. A nigga fighting for his freedom still.
Right. And that's what they doing. And that's why everything that they do, they don't want you with knowledge. They don't want you with knowledge. They don't want you. Them crackers, I know they hate my motherfucking guts. Bitch, I'm gonna be throwing your side forever. I don't care.
Shit. They gave you a hell of an education, though.
Yeah. And that's something they can't take back. You can't take this.
No.
I had to go in there. I learned to fault my property back. I mean, I did that shit. Man, I ain't even have a GED. Me and the lawyer arguing. He telling me it ain't gonna work. I'm like, man, this shit is gonna work. Because when I first came to prison, a nigga taught me about jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing he taught me. When I learned jurisdiction, that's why that stuff with that when I'm telling you about the 841, it's a jurisdictional issue, because jurisdiction is when the judge go outside his motherfucking boundaries. I learned jurisdiction. So when I knew jurisdiction, that's why they say, oh, they can't go outside the indictment. Why? Because that's jurisdiction. Anything dealing with jurisdiction, they don't like to hear that. Because when you go to talk about jurisdiction, you go to tying their hands. Their hands tied. Because now you showing them, hey, you can't do this. You can't go this far right here. Because you're exceeding your authority. That's what jurisdiction means. Like a jurisdiction means the judge exceeding his authority.
Yeah, I did that shit in the child support room. I went to child support one. I said, man, you're not even a judge, man. Who got jurisdiction over here, man? I said, man, I need to see a judge, man. I said, can I talk to a judge? They can't put me in front of one.
Yeah.
Because it's an administrative issue.
Right.
I said, my constitutional rights didn't feel like being violated. I need to see a judge. The whole operation shut down.
Yeah. Because they can't do it.
They can't put me in front of one.
Right. They can't operate outside of jurisdiction. So what I had done studied, when I had done gave my property and shit, it was a rule, and it showed that it say when they come in with forfeiture, if any forfeiture takes fruition, it say the court shall make it a part of the sentencing as sentencing. So when I read that, I'm like, damn. I said, man, they didn't what you understand? The game for the going time. Yeah. I say they didn't what's that?